GM Cardano, I'm Lloyd Duhan. It is the 25th of September 2023. Here are your top stories. Catalyst Fund 10 is closed and the results are now publicly available. The funding round was incredibly competitive with nearly 1,500 proposals vying for a portion of the $50 million ADA funding pot. Emotions ran high as the results set in. While many of the accusations and rhetoric heard can be chalked up to those heightened emotions, data analysis of the results show validity to many of the concerns expressed throughout the community. One of the more telling facts is that for the first time, downvote use outweighed upvote use. The end result is that fewer groups were funded, a decrease of 44%, and a rejection rate average which grew from 17% in Fund 8 to 24% in Fund 9, and then to 86% as of Fund 10. There was also a decrease in projects eligible for leftovers due to being out of budget in their own category. Meanwhile, the leftover budget moved up from $54,000 value to $278,000 value, or 1,113,000 ADA that was not allocated within their categories. In many instances, simply because downvotes had eliminated most proposals from even qualifying for this second chance. In the Catalyst Open category, 23 proposals were funded. If the next proposals in line had been granted access, a full 30 proposals could have been funded. Instead, downvoting sent those additional funds over to a bucket that was distributed to other projects that were not downvoted as heavily across other categories. In addition to the numbers, the community has been deep in discussion about the impacts that the Fund 10 results have had on their projects. Here's James Dunseith from Gimba Labs on Cardano over coffee.
My friends and family who don't care for DeFi the way it currently exists, or obviously like our NFTs give us the cartoon example, right, of what people might push back against. And we all have reasons for loving those things, and that's great. But I don't blame anybody who doesn't yet see the value of what we've shown them so far. And all of us who are working on education, all of us, we're building a network that's actually gonna, it's gonna expand the utility of this network in a dramatic way. And it's gonna drive that next wave of adoption that everybody keeps talking about. We're not gonna hit the next wave of adoption just by building more DeFi platforms. All right, the people who are here for that are already here for that. And that's the results we saw yesterday, right? Like we see like what's getting funded in Catalyst are the things we can imagine already. But all of us are doing that forward-thinking work. Everybody here, if you're doing any work with education, you're gonna drive the next bull market. You're gonna do it.
James reflected on what may have been a factor in his own proposals being downvoted.
It's hard to build and build awareness at the same time. So we focused on the build part, maybe at the expense of building awareness sometimes.
Daniel Ribar, often the face of Project Catalyst, who leads up the Catalyst Town Halls, said of the results.
Obviously, lots of emotions in the space, including myself and everybody else who has been participating. But I'm just happy that the Fund 10 is slowly coming to an end because it's been a long pause, and having such a juggernaut offline for so long, bringing it back on, I think that was the primary objective. And now that it's back on the railway, we can start looking ahead of like what those funds look like and be more predictable. And what's really cool is that everybody's talking about Catalyst. So that's the biggest positive I see out there, because very often, unless there's an active Catalyst round or things of that nature, there's very little conversation about topics like, that people touch towards the governance. And I've seen somebody else comment earlier today as well on Twitter about like Catalyst is almost like a demo of like what's actually out there, possibly, right? So it's a great opportunity to get the feet wet in terms of like what the legacy or what the underlying system is, because Catalyst does inherit its functionality right now from the main Cardano layer, but it's nowhere to say that it needs to stay exactly that way. So
later, Jenny Brito asked him,
Danny, how do we bring those ideas for the next round to the table?
I think what the biggest gap historically, and also like one of the reasons there was a break and looking into the stuff, is that no matter how many ideas we've had historically, all these previous funding rounds, it was nearly damn impossible to actually start implementing them in some plausible way, right? Part of that future strategy is as you know, the Catalyst testnet is being stood up. So providing, first of all, a space. So like, do we really want to try and figure out different voting mechanisms and things like that? We do need to move away from just having a Twitter conversations into actually, okay, can we dev this thing out? Can we put this on within the Catalyst context? And can we implement solutions that already may be available somewhere else?
According to Daniel, Fund 11 is expected to start prior to the end of this year. Peter Bio, Cardano ambassador and host of Learn Cardano, said of the extensive downvoting present in this round,
"It's like a security check, a safety check to make sure those types of scamish proposals don't get funded." But in this case, it seems like a lot of really good smaller projects that could have had a lot of really good impact, and not just small projects. These are some really big ecosystem projects such as Charlie 3, Igon. They're just a couple that had some really strong proposals but didn't get the funding because of the massive amount of downvotes. So how is this going to affect the ecosystem in the future? How are things going to improve and change? I don't have the answers for that, but there are a lot of people on Twitter and on social media at the moment chiming in and giving their feedback and potential ways that voting mechanisms can change.
We will continue to provide coverage on Project Catalyst and provide additional data and insight in the days to come. For links to the above stories, please check our show notes. GM Cardano is your go-to resource for the latest news from the Cardano blockchain. Your support helps us grow. Please like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. GM Cardano.